Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Ezra McCandless, as she likes to be called, who changed her name in 2015. Going back to the reports back in April 2018, a 20-year-old Stanley woman accused of stabbing to death 24-year-old Alex Woodworth in the town of Springbrook. She said a man attacked her. A man. Ezra, accompanied by her attorney, Aaron Nelson, made an initial appearance in Dunn County Circuit Court before the James Peterson on April the 6th on one felony count of first-degree intentional homicide. McCandless is accused in the stabbing death of Alexander Woodworth on March the 22nd. Bail was set at $250,000 cash during a court hearing on March the 28th. First-degree intentional homicide carries a maximum penalty of life in prison. A 2-hour preliminary hearing is scheduled in Dunn County Circuit Court on April the 25th. During this preliminary hearing, witnesses give testimony the judge uses to determine whether probable cause exists to believe a crime has been committed. If the judge determines there is no possible cause, the defendant is bound over for trial, and an arraignment hearing is scheduled during which the defendant most often enters a plea of not guilty. Nelson asked the court to strike one paragraph from the complaint, to seal the complaint and prohibit the news media from using the information in the paragraph. Assistant State Attorney General Richard Dufour, who appeared at the hearing by telephone, said McCandless has signed a waiver regarding her medical information for the purposes of the investigation, and therefore the paragraph should not be stricken from the complaint. Nelson said he had no reason to believe McCandless had signed a waiver. The paragraph deals with a report from a physician. Judge Peterson told Nelson to put his motion in writing. The court will not seal the complaint or strike the paragraph, Judge Peterson said. The toothpaste is out of the tube on that issue, he said. On foot. On March the 22nd, a town of Springbrook resident called Dunn County Dispatch to say a woman had arrived at his residence on foot. The man said the woman was bleeding. Her clothes were torn. She was not wearing any shoes, and her pants were covered in mud, according to the criminal complaint. The Dunn County deputy who responded to the residents, along with a state trooper, noticed that her pants were muddy to the knees, and she appeared to have blood around her mouth, on her knuckles, on her left arm, and on her upper right thigh, which was visible through an L-shaped hole in her pants, the complaint notes. When the deputy asked if the woman had any identification, she indicated she did not. The deputy observed that the woman appeared to be very upset. When the trooper asked if the woman was from Eau Claire, she said she was, but she was unable to provide an address or her name. When the trooper asked if there was anyone they could contact for her, she said they could contact Jason Mingle. It's funny how she don't know her own name, but she can give Jason's name and telephone number. The woman was transported by ambulance to Mayo Clare Hospital. The deputy followed. As the woman was being treated by medical staff, she said her name was Ezra McCandless and that she had changed her name from Monica Carlin in 2015. The deputy was also able to see the word boy was cut into her left arm. The deputy contacted the Eau Claire Police Department for assistance in locating Mingle. Jason, that is. An officer from Eau Claire Police Department said they'd had contact earlier that day at approximately 12:30 p.m. with Candace, Mingle, and Alexander Woodworth. When the deputy called Mingle, the man said the last time he had seen McCandless was when she was at Alexander Woodworth's residence in Eau Claire. The Eau Claire officer attempted to contact Woodworth at the residence, but unable to do so. The deputy and the Eau Claire officer went back to Mayo Eau Claire to speak with McCandless, who said she and Woodworth had gone to Owen Park in Eau Claire, where Alexander allegedly attacked McCandless, according to the complaint. An altercation started because Woodworth had called her a boy and had cut her arm. The word boy. The Eau Claire police officer reviewed the public space cameras where McCandless said the alleged attack had happened. The officer reported McCandless' vehicle was not seen coming or going from the park, and that the area is near a busy intersection with a large amount of vehicles and pedestrian traffic. The detective with the Eau Claire Police Department continued the investigation and noticed a sufficient amount of time had passed when McCandless was last seen with Woodworth and when she appeared at the Springbrook residence. Eau Claire Police Department detectives continued to try to locate Woodworth, which is Alexander, and based on the circumstances of McCandless' arrival at the Springbrook residence, the detectives became concerned about Alexander's safety, according to the complaint. Muddy Road. The next day, March the 23rd, detectives decided to return to the town of Springbrook residence to interview the homeowner and gather additional information. About 3 p.m. March the 23rd, 4 detectives set out for the town of Springbrook. As they were traveling on 430th Avenue, they saw a muddy road running to the south, about a 4-acre parcel east of the residence where McCandless had arrived on foot. As the other detectives were speaking with the home owner, two detectives took a closer look and saw footprints on the muddy road that appeared to be barefoot or stocking-footed because the footprints did not contain any shoe pattern. The detectives saw only one set of footprints, and they also observed tire tracks in the mud. Were not consistent with a farm truck or farm equipment, according to the complaint. Because McCandless had been found covered in mud and had arrived at the residence on foot, the detectives walked up the side of the muddy road and saw a vehicle matching the description of McCandless's vehicle. As they moved closer, they noted the vehicle was a 2003 Chevy Impala, which was later confirmed to be McCandless's vehicle. The driver's side rear door was standing open, and clothing items were lying on the ground. As the detectives approached the vehicle, they could see the head and upper torso of an individual lying partially out of the driver's side rear door. It was apparent the person was deceased. There was blood around the vehicle and no signs of life. The detectives determined there were no other victims, so they backed out of the area to preserve what they believed to be a crime scene. Autopsy. On March the 24th, an autopsy was conducted at the Ramsey County Medical Examiner's Office, which is in Minnesota. The deceased subject was identified as Alexander L. Woodworth, and the preliminary report indicates the cause of death was multiple sharp force injuries. The manner of death was homicide. The report indicated there were 16 stab wounds on Alexander Woodworth's body. Investigators from Dunn County and Eau Claire Police Department spoke with McCandless at Mayo Eau Claire on March the 24th. McCandless said she had driven to Woodworth's residence to return some items. They had decided they wanted to talk and went to a public place. McCandless and Woodworth eventually ended up on 430th Avenue in the town of Springbrook, where they got stuck in the mud on the dirt road. McCandless said Alexander attacked her in the vehicle and carved the word boy into her arm. McCandless said she grabbed the blade of the knife, was able to get away from Woodworth, and said she stabbed Woodworth anywhere and everywhere. McCandless told investigators, I just started stabbing anything I could, anywhere. When the investigators asked McCandless again how the word boy got onto her arm, McCandless did not respond. When the investigators asked McCandless if Woodworth put the word on her arm, as she had said earlier, she answered no, and admitted she had put the word on her arm in the car after she had stabbed Alexander. Well, listen to this. Remember, she had a swab taken at the hospital. She had the swab taken for DNA because she said she was assaulted. But she doesn't know assaulted by what? A knife? Yeah. Well, let's try to get DNA from the knife. Well, anyway, DNA was taken, and 3 guys' DNA were on that swab. 3 guys, JM, JH, and AW. Well, that just shows you that she had sex with all 3 of them lately. Something was going on. She was very close to all 3 of them within days. What does that show you? She don't take baths very often. She doesn't clean up very often. Well, that's a start. 3 guys. And 3 guys. JM told her to go report the assault. She goes over to JH's home and parties, and then does it again the next morning, and then does it again by text and sending nude pictures and a splitting, sexual contact to him, knowing that this man she just accused of assaulting and raping her and taking advantage of her and used her. In fact, when she was at John's home, she said, they used me. They just used me. Well, that says a lot to me. They just used her. She was mad. She was angry that they used her. For what? For sex? For sex? Well, you put yourself out there for that. And you did it again. And you did it again. And you can't blame the drink. You can't blame them forcing drink down you and getting sick on wine because you're the one that drunk it. And the next time, what's your excuse? They wasn't feeding you drink. You were sober. So what's the excuse? And you still went and did it again. In fact, there was an investigation going on, and neither of you should have been talking to each other. You shouldn't have been talking to each other, let alone meeting up with each other. That was a violation of the terms. When you file a complaint, a sexual complaint, you don't be calling them and talking sweet nothings in their ear and meeting up with them. There's your case out the window. And Alex wasn't even supposed to be talking to you, let alone being in the same car and you trying to convince him about the upcoming court case. You were trying to convince him to say nothing. That's what you were doing. And he wasn't going to do it. That was his friend. And he's known him a lot longer than he knows you. But he'd already made his statement. And not long after he made that statement, he was a dead man. He was a dead man. It's just all coming together. It's just all coming together. She wasn't there to bring back his stupid things that she wanted to give him. And I like to know, did they ever find the heating pad and um, the book, the book, the bookbinder, that she said that she had to give back to him. Did they ever find that? Did she ever give it back to him? And the two paintings that were exchanged with Max, Jason said that they exchanged the paintings at the coffee shop. But that's another lie. We're not sure who was lying there because they went back to Max's home and she exchanged the paintings there. She gave the painting to Max, the one painting from Jason's room that was hanging on the wall that had bad memories. Max gave her two paintings. I'm not sure how big they were. They could not have been that big because according to Ezra, she put them in her car and went to Jason's home. What happened to these paintings? She put one under the seat or something like that, the other one on the front seat. So they had to be moved from the front seat and put elsewhere. Normally, you probably put them at the back seat, out the way. Where was these paintings and why didn't they get broken up? Did they have blood on them? What happened to them? I never did hear nothing about that. Here is more documents, and this was around December the 3rd, 2018. And it just, repeats mostly what I just said. During a court hearing Monday at Dunn County, Judge James Peterson denied motions to suppress audio recordings of McCandless's interview with authorities, determining her March 23rd interview with a detective was voluntary and not an interrogation, court records state. Yeah, it didn't look like interrogation to me. She was just being asked about what happened. Remember, she just said she was assaulted. They have to make a report. She gave another interview to the officer on March the 24th, which was deemed an interrogation, but she was able to leave at any time. No Miranda rights were given at the time, but her statements appear to be voluntary. The court determined that defense attorney Aaron Nelson has indicated his client wishes to enter a plea of guilty, but not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. At a hearing November the 20th, the court ordered mental health reports to be submitted, to be sealed and not disclosed outside the legal terms. In May, a psychologist who examined McCandless stated she was mentally fit to stand trial. The court will hold another motion hearing on February the 6th, which will include a discussion of possibly moving the trial to a different county. And the trial was to begin on April the 2nd and scheduled to last around 3 weeks. And she appeared in court again, and she remains in custody on a $250,000 cash bond. Um, of course, we all know she said he attacked her. In May, she was back before the judge, James Peterson again. She was questioned. And McCandless confirmed that she feels mentally capable of understanding the nature of the proceedings and is working with her attorney, Aaron Nelson, on her defense. With the agreement on both the defense and the prosecution, Peterson sealed the competency evaluation report from public access. Prepared to proceed with the arraignment, Nelson stated she pleads not guilty today. And the final autopsy report of the 24-year-old Alex was received Monday night. And the question is of when his remains can be turned over to his family. Because, you know, Nelson, he didn't want that to happen. You know, what was he going to do? Keep autopsy in the body or something? And then, according to the Assistant Attorney General Richard Dufour, the report was turned over to Nelson, and the remaining details of the case will be turned over to the defense within a couple of days. Nelson requested 60 days to review the autopsy and other reports before agreement to release the victim's remains. That's shit, isn't it? You know, once an autopsy is done, it's normally handed over to the family to bury a man. It's just disgusting. And the district attorney, Andrea Nodolf, objected, noting that the bulk of the information was already provided weeks ago and that extending the proceedings would be detrimental to the family. And Nelson responded, they need to be analyzed in the contents of the discovery, which they still don't have. How can I make a decision on how long it will take me to review all this information when I don't even know the quantity of the information? And the judge Peterson scheduled a status conference for July the 8th, at which time the issue of whether Woodworth's remains can be released. When they were arguing in court, at this point, the state does believe there is a possible threat to the public, as well as others given the information that was received. And that was by Andrea. And Nelson says there is no factual basis whatsoever that has been provided to Your Honor or the defense that she has committed any crime. And that's what McCandless's defense attorney, Aaron Nelson, was saying to the judge. And like I said, the bond was set at $250,000. If able to post bail, she is expected to stay within Chippewa and Dunn counties. I'm going to read some comments from people about their thoughts and opinions to this trial. I'm not sure what's happening either. I've been watching on and off, and not able to really get into this trial. The defendant appears very strange and she keeps staring at the camera. What I don't understand is how she was able to overpower Alex and stab him 16 times. She had a couple tiny little puncture wounds, some knife scratches, and a cut lip, and a boy scratched into her arm. Medical examiners says injuries were self-inflicted. Maybe Alex was tied up or something, since it seems they were into BDSM or something such kinky stuff, not sure. The motive for killing him is revenge. Maybe that he wouldn't lie for her, excuse another man of having raped her, which he didn't, so she could keep her other boyfriend. This is some kind of three-man triangle with a woman that's previously identified as a male and that decided to be a female again. Another comment. My opinion is that since Alex had a journal, she was afraid he would tell Jason. I think she wanted to get rid of Alex. She has already falsely claimed rape before. Jason apparently believed her. What I don't like is she tried to say she didn't know her name at first, then said her birth name instead of the name she was going by. And she gave a vague address. She is also seen laughing during the trial breaks. I think one of these times the jury was present, so I'm sure they will take note on that. Here's another one. I just heard a snip of her police interview, and she admitted she carved the word boy on her arm. She claims she passed out in the car and woke up and then did that. The snip video went so fast, but I think she claims she passed out twice in the car, which she did. That's what she said. She passed out, she came to, she passed out, she went into a fog. It's not true. She didn't. She was sitting there thinking, what the hell am I going to do? What story am I going to tell? And the part about the shoes, when she had one shoe on, one boot off, anybody else would put the other boot on, not take the other boot off, because it's freezing cold and muddy. I don't know why she did that, but anyway, she did. And another comment, this is a very interesting case, but there is so much background info missing or scattered through MSM. I went back to make timeline from the MSM until I have more time to watch the trial. Alexander graduated class of 2012. He went on to further his education at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. He received his bachelor's degree in philosophy and biology in the spring of 2017. Alexander worked at the coffee shop downtown in Eau Claire. He was a tutor on the campus and also taught a few philosophy classes at the local high school in Eau Claire. McCandless was an employee of the Stanley Boyd Area School District as of March 22. McCandless told multiple people that she was assaulted by 2 people as a child. Oh, here we go. She told multiple people she was assaulted by 2 people as a child by a man in 2017 and by another man in 2018. Didn't I tell you guys that it's happened before? That these 3 men in this love triangle were not the first. Were not the first. So this story she tells has been told time after time after time. It keeps happening to her. It's a pattern, which I said it was a pattern. She's a nothing but a liar. She always accusing people of assaulting her, yet she's the one. She's the one in it too. She's the one that's with them. So I'll read that again. McCandless told multiple people that she was assaulted by 2 people as a child, by a man in 2017 and by another man in 2018. Eau Claire Police Department is investigating the 2018 assault allegations against one of the men, which was probably John. And then, of course, Alex, because she said the same thing about him. Same false allegations, no proof, all on her word and her lie, her false narrative. And she, in fact, filed the sexual assault, as you know, Jason encouraged her to do so to save other women from the same fate, as he put it. But the report was false. An attempt to cover up a consensual sexual relationship with a different man, which the prosecutor said in a March the 6th court filing, because sexual graphic text messages allegedly between McCandless and a man accused of the assault, which we know as John, and it was consensual. And she knew damn well that she had her hands caught in the cookie jar, because Jason was nosy and looked on her iPod and took photos of it too. Pictures, and saying, when we gonna do this again? When she just accused him of sexual assault. So that was proven. That was proven that she was just a liar. But I bet these men are gonna watch out for women again. If you're going to have multiple people in your life and have sex with them, and your real boyfriend finds out, you're going to lie about it? Yeah, well, maybe the man should have came round and said, she attacked me when I was sleeping and put her mouth where it don't belong. Something like that. Because once you call wolf, too many times, people aren't going to believe you when it happens for real, when it really happens. You got to watch what you do and say out there, women and men. You know, and if you did it once and you just wanted to let it go, why go back again and again and again? She just wants attention. Well, you don't get attention that way. Negative attention. And then she goes by her. Well, I guess when she first met Alex and Jason, she had her hair short. And of course at school she didn't know who she was. She didn't know, she felt like maybe she thought she was a lesbian or maybe she's bisexual, but she sure wasn't transgender because she was a woman. But you know, she's tomboyish. But that's part of her lies. That's a thing. I think she did that because men were kind of attracted to that. You know, she found something that she could get attention from men because they're like, wow, well, she's into a few things. She seems to be a bit kinky. I might have some of this. You know, that's probably what she did it for. This probably hasn't got anything to do with agenda, you know, gender. She did it because men like that kind of thing. They like something different. They like to be kinky in the room. They like to be excited. You know, and this is all that it could have been. And it's all gone wrong. It's all being used against them in the end. And when you have a dead man can't talk. But they sure leave behind something to be talked about. So, just like the other Alexander in the Jodi Arias case, he was a writer. Look how his words got turned around. Look how his texts were used against him. He also was accused of the word boy when she said he had a boy photo on the bed that floated like a feather when she walked into the room and fell off the bed. Yeah, just like that. Well, we know she watched that case. She's just like her. She used a lot of the same techniques that she used. Another comment was made. It's very clear Jason and Ezra cared deeply for each other. I guess the prosecution was trying to show her state of mind prior to the incident. The texts about punching him in the face, though, aren't really threatening. Though I do find it interesting, Jason kept saying he was concerned for both of them prior to meeting. He even suggested Ezra email the journals instead of giving them to Alex in person. But I don't think it was journals. It was a heating pad and I don't know if it was a book or a book marker. I think it was a book marker. But anyway, Jason was concerned for them both and said, email them, send them by mail. Well, really, Jason, you could have took them, couldn't you? He was concerned was because they wasn't supposed to have contact with each other. because there was court proceedings going on. That's the reason. That's the reason. You know, and a lot of people following this case found this case very interesting as the days went on and they got to know about this case.